face pumpkin shortage. Oh, no. My goodness. Well, if you can't find this, I will show you how to make a pumpkin pie out of this. So we'll go from this to this today on Hope for Your Garden. So the first step in making a pumpkin pie from scratch is to get a small pie pumpkin. You want to pick something. The pie pumpkin is going to be a richer, denser pumpkin meat and will have best flavor. So you look for something like New England pie, sugar pie, and any of the pumpkin farms will have pumpkins, or stores. You look for the smaller pumpkins. And the other is that you grow your own. So in the spring, you're going to want to find seeds that are labeled either sugar pie, pumpkin pie, or good for pies. And this is one that I grew in our backyard. And what I've done is I've taken the pumpkin and I've cleaned it. And so I just removed the skin, or the inside seed, and kind of the stringy stuff, just like you would if you were carving your pumpkin. And then I quartered them, and then I baked them, and I put them in about just an inch of water in the bottom of the pan. I put my quarters in, and I bake them at 350 for about an hour until they're tender. And now I'm going to scrape this out, and I'm going to add it to sweet potatoes. When I'm making my pies, I usually, if we're doing a lot of pies for Thanksgiving, I like to use the Marie Callender pie crust, and they come out as good as homemade. I find that these come out super crispy. Everybody raves about them, and if they don't ask, I don't tell that they're not homemade. They ask for the recipe. What I like to do is take them out, and I thaw them out a little bit and get them a little bit soft, and then I can go ahead and re-crimp the edge so that it looks more homemade than the pre-crimped that you get right out of the freezer. So these are just lightly soft, and then what I do is that you take your fingers, you can press this down a little bit to get rid of those ridges, and then you could do whatever crimp that you like. The easy one that my grandma taught me is just you put your fingers like so, and then you go, and it kind of makes a wavy design. You can use the back of a fork and make that kind of ridged area, but this is really easy. You just press down in between the other two fingers, and we have homemade pie crust. So I always like to pre-bake my pie crust just for about 10 minutes to get them set so that they don't get soggy while baking. And I'm going to go ahead and put these in my oven, 400 degrees, set my timer. And while that's baking, I'm going to go ahead and start to prep my pumpkin. I'll need about 4 cups of finished pumpkin puree. And this is just taking this, cutting it, and putting it into our blender. By baking this instead of boiling, you can boil pumpkin. It gets really watery and it loses a lot of its flavor. So by baking it, it keeps it really rich and keeps it probably a little more like the canned pumpkin that you would get. Earlier, I baked a couple sweet potatoes to add to this. And I wrap them in tin foil, and then I bake them at about 400 for about an hour. And all that sugar that's in the sweet potato caramelizes into sweet potato or yam. These are actually yams, though I like calling them sweet potatoes. And they peel off really easily. And I'm just going to add the whole thing. And this, you can see the color is just adds wonderful sweetness and really nice texture. So these are actually easier to peel after they're cooked, and you would lose a lot of the sugar if they didn't have the peel on. So I like to leave it on. It's also a great way to do sweet potatoes or yams just for dinner, and then you You can mash them like you would mashed potatoes. They're yummy that way. A lot of iron, B vitamins in sweet potatoes. And at this point, to puree this, I like to add about half of the milk that I'm going to add. So I'm going to add about a half a cup, and this will help this puree a little bit easier. And then I'm just going to pulse, and I can add more. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my pureed pumpkin sweet potato mix, and you can see how creamy and beautiful this comes out. So this is about 4 cups of the pumpkin puree, and to this I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar, and I like using half brown sugar, half white sugar, and that'll add a little bit to the color. I'm also going to add a good teaspoon of homemade vanilla. Maybe in the next show I'll show you how to make vanilla. And you could use store-bought by all means. And then I'm going to add, I'll mix this up a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and add my spices. And I've used a teaspoon of each of pumpkin pie spice, cloves, nutmeg, ginger, and cinnamon. We'll just sprinkle those over the top. That'll help darken the color a little bit, and so will the brown sugar. And then I'm just going to add my 3 eggs. I ended up using a whole cup of milk, and you could use evaporated milk, you could use cream. I don't like to use anything less than whole milk. It changes the texture, and it needs to have a little bit of fat. You could even get this a little richer by adding a tablespoon of melted butter. But this winter I'm trying to watch the calories, so I've omitted that. And I do also like to add a teaspoon of salt to this. I'm now going to beat my 3 eggs, and these I like to go ahead and beat separately and get them all mixed up evenly, and it seems to just make it maybe a little bit fluffier and come out a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to add my eggs to my pumpkin pie, to my pumpkin mixture, and I've almost got pie. I'm getting very excited. So then I just like to fold that in, mix it up. A good one for the kids to do. It's really easy. They get to grow their own pumpkins and see how that works. And it's very economical. And that is about it. And this will make 2 pies. And I think it's like 2 9-inch pies. We have to get every little last bit of goodness into that pie. And over the top of the pie, before I bake it, I like to just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. And this will give it a beautiful sheen and add a little bit more flavor. And it's just a really light amount, and you can either do it by mixing your cinnamon and sugar together, or I'll just do it like so. And then we're going to bake this at 400 for 15 minutes, and then I bring it down to 350 and I bake it another 45 minutes, and then we will have pie. This time I'm going to come back and make sure that the photographer doesn't eat the pie first. Oh. So I've now pulled my pies out of the oven, and I'm ready to cut and slice. They're still a little warm, but there's nothing like hot pumpkin pie right out of the oven. You could go ahead and put a little bit of ice cream with this. So yummy. Happy holidays. Enjoy.